That's right. You're listening to another episode of the co-main event Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for nearly the last 14 years, you know what? Fuck it. For the last 14 years,
Yeah, say it. Say it, brother.
for the last 14 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. Ben, UFC 328 is this weekend, the Prudential Center over there in Newark, New Jersey, Brick City, as they call it. My wife once dropped an F-bomb in conversation with a ticket agent at the Newark airport, and the face that guy made, man, I thought that we were going to land in federal prison. Like,
When you say she dropped an F-bomb in conversation, was it while she was berating him, or they were talking about the Devils game last night and she was like, it was fucking pathetic?
Well, she wasn't like, hey, ticket agent, fuck you, right? Because she's not that kind of person. But like, our flight had been canceled. I can't remember what was happening. It was they were doing the New York, New Jersey, we can't do nothing for you attitude, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe at one point she said that something was fucking ridiculous, right?
Okay.
And man, everybody is a big tough guy at the New York, New Jersey airport until a little lady says a swear, and then it's pearl clutching time over there.
I'll tell you what I remember is that I went to cover an event in Newark, and then afterwards, it was when I was doing that series on the Grudge Gym guys, and several of them fought on that card, including Nate Marquardt and a couple other guys. And afterwards, they all went to some bar restaurant across the street just to get something to eat because they were starving. It's late at night. And it was not a very conducive environment to like very exhausted physically and emotionally pro fighters going in there and just trying to get some goddamn chicken wings, maybe drink a Bud Light before bedtime and getting up to go fly home in the morning, because it was just loud and raucous. And clearly people had been drinking for hours and hours. And so it was not a place where they could just chill and be left alone very easily. Except at one point they had like sort of, you remember Reed Kuhn, who wrote the Fightnomics book?
Yeah.
He was there. And he was serving as sort of a statistician kind of for the Grudge Gym guys. Remember when they had the Alchemist management team was like we're hiring all these people and everything. And I don't know exactly how official his role was, but there was a guy who kept coming over trying to talk to us. And for one thing, they got in some kind of argument with some guy, and the guy was sort of kicked out of their section. And then this one dude was like, don't you know who that is? And everybody was like, no, we have no idea who that is. And he was like, that's the fastest drummer in the world. And we were like, okay, bro. And then he was like, no, seriously, like he's on YouTube. Look him up as the fastest drummer in the world. Turns out he was on there, but still nobody gave a fuck. Everybody was like, that seems not like a real title. And it doesn't matter. He was being an asshole. So who cares how fast he can drum? Anyway, this dude who told us about the fastest drummer then starts going on about how the world was going to end in 2016 or whatever, some shit to do with the Mayan calendar. I can't remember exactly the specifics, but he had a date in mind that the world was going to end. He was very adamant about it. I don't even know why he was talking to us about it. But Reed was like, okay, if the world's going to end, do you have a car? And the guy was like, yeah, I have a car. And he was like, sign me over the title to your car, but date it for January 1st, 2017. I'll give you $40 right now for the title to your car. And you're confident the world's going to end in 2016, right? So you're not going to need that car. You're just getting $40 for free, essentially, the way you see it. Like if you're so sure of this, go ahead and do. And the guy wouldn't do it. But you could see though, like you could see this man's worldview crumbling on his face, where he was just like, he realized, no, I'm not willing to do that. But also I have been living and telling people and feeling very assured that the world's going to end. But also when it comes time to put up or shut up the title to your Honda Civic or whatever, he couldn't go that far. Yeah. And I've often wondered what became of that guy after this whole traveling band of gypsies left Newark, New Jersey. Was he a shattered man? Did he have to turn around and put his faith in something else?
Wherever he is, I assume he's still driving around in that car being like, thank God I still got this car. Right?
Yeah, I don't know if he's driving around in a Bugatti these days. Let's say that.
Anywho, UFC 328 this weekend. Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland for the middleweight title. The co-main event, Joshua Van and Tatsuro Taira for the men's flyweight title. Obviously, Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev have elevated the trash talk game leading up to this fight. So I think there's going to be some stuff to talk about there. Also, did Carlos Prates jump the line of welterweight contenders when he wore Jack Della Maddalena around like a button in Perth last weekend? We got a lot to talk about, plus some listener mail coming up in the middle of the show. First, though, we got to remind you guys, Pledge Month is underway, and things, Ben, are going swimmingly.
Swimmingly, you say?
Yeah. Just yesterday, we published our Bad Takes accountability episode over on the Patreon, part of a 3 or 4 episode mini series that we're running to celebrate the CME's 14th birthday during the month of May. From the looks of the show, it was well received, I guess, over on the Discord, in the comments of the Patreon. We sat there and let longtime listeners remind us of our worst, most indefensible, terrible takes over the last 14 years, some of which I have to say were bad takes, and some of them were just grievances.
Yeah.
And some of them were just like personal lifestyle choices that they don't agree with. So,
yeah, I mean, there's takes and then there's opinions. I was mostly stunned by how many of our indefensible takes are, according to you and I, quite defensible.
It was real what had happened was
Yeah.
episode of the of Bad Takes accountability.
Because sometimes people come in there and be like, remember when you said this? And it was like, okay, yes, I had said that. However, what you had to consider at the time. And then the next thing you know, I've talked myself into thinking, okay, I was wrong, but I was kind of right.
Yeah.
You know?
I was right in theory.
Yeah.
It was rooted on solid ground with that take that turned out to be indefensibly wrong. In any case, it was fun. Pledge Month was rolling right along. I just want to tell you guys about some stuff you might be interested in. We'll be having a live watch party for patrons Saturday, May 16th during the debut show for MVP MMA with Rousey and Carano. We'll be hanging out for that. So if that sounds fun, you can join the Pledge Month, join the Patreon during Pledge Month. Also, for Pledge Month, every patron over there gets bumped up one patronage tier throughout May. If you're a $3 patron, you get access to $5 content. If you're a $5 patron, you get access to $10 content, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I got to say, I got to have a caveat on this now because people were asking about it over on the Discord. We can only grant you one additional patronage tier for new content. We can't go back and retroactively change old content so that you have access to it, because we would have to do every episode individually, and there are hundreds of them.
You know what, though? If you were to upgrade your membership on your own during Pledge Month, then you would retroactively have access to all the shit.
God damn, that is a good point, Ben. That is a great point. I'm glad you said that.
This is not an unsolvable problem, is what I'm saying.
Also, starting this month, we're sweetening the deal for $20 patrons. Beginning in June, we're bringing back the monthly movie, TV, book clubs. No matter what, if you're a $20 patron, you get access to that. If you upgrade to the $20 level, you're gonna get some culture, whether you asked for it or not. Plus, you get to vote on what we do. You get to choose the movie, the book, whatever. We'll put a poll up at the beginning of every month, and whatever wins, that's what we'll watch or read and we'll talk about. In addition to that, we issued a little challenge for all the little co-maniacs out there. We started out saying if 10 people either join the Patreon or upgrade their memberships to the $20 annual subscription tier, that we would bring back Are You Fucking Kidding Me? One of the most beloved segments that used to be on the proper. If we got 10 signups or upgrades, we would bring that back on the version of the proper that is available to $20 patrons. And I tell you what, we blew right through that. We blew right through it within a couple of days. Are You Fucking Kidding Me is officially back for $20 patrons. So now we got the next level that we're trying to get to, the next challenge. If we get to 20 upgrades or signups for $20 annual subscriptions, we're bringing back Just Saying Stuff. Another one of the most beloved previous segments on the CME proper that went away for various reasons a year or two ago. And if we get to 20, it's got to be $20 level annual subscriptions. We're bringing back Just Saying Stuff. I think we can get there because we need 6 more people.
Wow, that's not that many more people.
6 more, and we're bringing back Just Saying Stuff. On top of that, if we get to 25, if you sign up for the $20 annual subscription or you upgrade to the $20 annual subscription, starting in July, Ben Folks and I are going to take on the much talked about, much asked for Wire season 1 rewatch. People have been asking us for
if you
years.
walk through the garden,
No.
come on, man.
I'm thinking about taking that off the table. I'm thinking about saying we're not going to do that no matter how many people sign up if you're going to keep singing like that.
I'm only going to keep singing like that until we hit the goal, and then people unlock that as a treat, because every time you mention it, I hear it. I hear Steve Earle in my head talking about keeping the devil down in the hole, Chad. I feel like I can hear Corner Boys talking about how they got them WMDs. I feel like, I close my eyes, I see Sidnor up on the roof with a camera,
Okay. So you're saying if we get to 20 signups or upgrades, $20 annual subscription level, you will stop singing that song.
Yeah.
Okay. That could be the biggest appealing perk of all, I suppose.
If you walk through the garden.
See, no, that's not good. Please take pity on me and sign up for the $20 annual subscription. Jesus Christ. If you've listened to the show at all, you know that we like to consider the Patreon the best deal in MMA. Ben and I are over there all week, normally not singing on Patreon. Hit us up at patreon.com/co-main event. Get loads of extra audio and video content, as well as access to our official Discord message board where they're talking fights and a lot of other shit all the time. We know most of you are not going to join the Patreon, and that's fine. Though if you did, we could probably make the CME our full-time jobs, which would be
a
pretty
lot
rad.
cooler. Be a lot cooler if you did.
Be a lot cooler if you did. If you've ever thought about joining, this month is maybe the best month ever to do it. Head over to patreon.com/co-main event and join the team. Ben, Sean Strickland has said if Khamzat Chimaev tries to take it to the streets, that he can rest assured that Sean Strickland's got that thang on him, that he's got the heater.
There's different ways to interpret kind of what he's saying, because it's like at times he seems to be saying, if Khamzat Chimaev tries to take it there, I'm ready to take it there. And then other times where he's like, I'm going to be waiting in the hotel lobby to try to have a confrontation with Khamzat Chimaev. And I'm like, those are a couple different things, my man.
Yeah, that's the difference between self-defense and premeditation, which I am no legal expert, but I have come to believe that there is a difference, and that one will get you in way more trouble than the other.
Also, after all this shit he's done talked, I know that they are going through Sean Strickland's carry-on luggage pretty carefully. You think
he's going to get picked for a random pat down?
I guess I hope
TSA?
So. I hope he is, because
he has been making threats online, which seems like that would normally get you plucked out of line if they found out about that.
Like, do you think Sean Strickland is like one of those dudes in the Richard Stark novels where he gets to a new city and he knows a phone number to call, somebody hook him up with an iron?
Yes. I think Sean Strickland is one of those guys.
Do you think he's out there? It's like that scene in Taxi Driver where he's meeting a weirdo dude in a hotel room. The guy's like unzipping a bag and telling you about all the different guns he has for sale. You think it's like that? And as you're walking out the door, the guy's like, what about drugs? You want mescaline, uppers, downers? Want a Cadillac? I can get you a new Cadillac right now with papers. And Sean Strickland's just like, no, man, all I want is way more guns than I will ever need.
I don't know for sure, but if we were going to have a vote in terms of which UFC fighter's life is most like Taxi Driver, that Sean Strickland might finish pretty high in the balloting. I don't know.
He's up. If we were to have a vote on which UFC fighter's interior life is most like Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver, it's got to be Sean Strickland. It's got to be. The thoughts that are happening inside that man's brain at any time have got to be a lot like the narration in Taxi Driver, where he's sitting there saying, listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. You know, like that's got to be happening in Sean Strickland's head at least some of the time.
Yeah, that's bleak to think about it that way. I did see on UFC Embedded this week that Sean Strickland was maybe tearing down and building a new wall behind his house, like a cinder block wall, and he was out there with the tractor trailer, with the earth mover, whatever it was, and he's doing some manual labor, which I did see him get called out on Twitter for performative blue collar bona fides. LARPing. Yes, LARPing. Yeah, that's right.
I think we saw the same tweet there. I wondered the same thing though, because I was just like, really, Sean Strickland? You just have to build a new cinder block wall in your backyard, and it has to be when the UFC Embedded crew shows up to do this thing on you before the fight. I would think, man, that the wall could wait until after the fight or way before. Like, you would do it when you were not in fight camp. Doesn't that make the most sense? Or if you are a millionaire, as Sean Strickland has at times suggested he is, thanks to his UFC earnings, you would maybe just pay somebody fucking $4,000 to come over and build you a wall, man. Like, it's not like those are the only choices. So I did wonder about that too, because it does seem like, oh, hey there, you caught me in the middle of doing this thing that can boost my bona fides and can help establish me as the kind of person I like to think of myself as. It's like coming into somebody's house on this appointed date with a camera crew, and there they are in their robe with a pipe looking up from their leather-bound copy of Alfred Lord Tennyson being like, oh, hello, you just surprised me while I was reading some verse. You know?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I know. I mean, again, if you were going to tell me Sean Strickland was going to do his own labor to tear down his wall and build it back up, which there's a metaphor in there somewhere, I believe it. I believe that he would do it himself, DIY, with his own two hands, but the timing is suspicious. I agree with that.
Also, if he is building it himself, I want that Embedded crew to come back in 6 months. Let's see how that wall looks.
Indeed, yeah. He is going off as a plus 425 underdog at this exact moment over on DraftKings. Khamzat Chimaev is minus 575. Those are long odds for a championship fight. Ordinarily, it would lead me to crack a joke about how maybe shooting Khamzat Chimaev is Sean Strickland's best chance before he gets in the cage.
This is not the climate for me.
I agree with that, and I would also say we've seen Sean Strickland in a title fight nobody thought he could win before.
Yes,
and he did in fact win it.
And just fucked up your whole week of betting. One of the things that was brought up during Bad Takes Accountability Week.
One of the worst takes of all time, when I went ahead and put Israel Adesanya in every single one of my bets that week, and then he lost.
You just kind of kept talking yourself into it over and over and over again. But, you know, I saw somebody pointing out sort of Sean Strickland's record that he seems to do pretty well when he is an underdog. And I think, you know, I mentioned this before, that I was talking to Chael Sonnen about something else, and he mentioned that some people do much better in the underdog role, both because, like, psychologically more than anything, but because they can, feel like some of the pressure is off. Nobody's expecting you to win. People expect you to get your ass kicked. So even if you get your ass kicked and do reasonably well, it might come out looking like a sort of a victory. But also, some people need that to feel like nobody believes in you. Everybody thinks that you're lamb to the slaughter here. You're going to go in there and prove them all wrong. Some people need that in order to get where they need to be to go in there and fight. Now, that is all well and good. Maybe you're saying under those right psychological circumstances, you could be the best version of yourself. However, what I think a lot of these betting odds presuppose is even the very best version of Sean Strickland stylistically has some major problems against Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say some things that I don't believe.
Oh, good.
And I know full well that the last time I made this argument, it was about Robert Whittaker heading into his fight against Khamzat Chimaev, and we all remember.
I'm surprised that one didn't come up during Bad Takes Accountability, because we both. And now here's again how I could end up defending it is what I remember saying is if he can get through that first round,
Yep.
he could turn it. It might end up being bad for Khamzat in the second and the third and whatnot. And it just turned out that he could not get through that first round.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm about to say the same thing about Sean Strickland, right?
Uh-oh.
The only time that we've really seen Khamzat Chimaev struggle is when he fought Gilbert Burns way back now in 2022. So maybe we're talking about ancient history, but Gilbert Burns was able to push him a little bit. Gilbert Burns was able to get that fight all the way to a 3-round decision. And in that fight, we saw Khamzat Chimaev start to fade a little bit toward the end. That his cardio let him down a little bit there. Sean Strickland's style of fighting is very pressure-based. He's a volume striker. He likes to move forward. He's going to tax you in the cardio department. So if Sean Strickland can stay on his feet, which that's maybe the biggest if in this entire scenario, if he can implement that pressure game somehow, and if he can drag this thing into deep water, does he become any less of an underdog? Does he start to move the odds from plus 425 or whatever it is?
First of all, I'm going to say deep water, first refuge of a scoundrel when trying to talk about planning how an underdog might win a fight he's not supposed to win. Second of all, I will say I understand the logic of everything that you've just laid out. I also think that we're pointing to one fight a few years ago where Khamzat Chimaev engaged in the kind of fight that was not to his advantage, seemed to do so by choice rather than because he was forced to, seemed to just, he heard the music and had to dance. And maybe learned from that, because when we saw him go in for a title fight, the thing he did not do was fuck around on the feet a whole bunch. You know, he seemed like, and if anything, he was criticized like, hey, you didn't risk enough trying to finish this fight, and ended up being a boring domination. But he also seemed to have no problems with it. It seemed like the smartest path to victory for him. So maybe he's sort of grown as a fighter in that way. I also think that it's like, yeah, maybe you could get him tired if you could force him to do your shit rather than his shit. But that's been the biggest challenge for everybody with Khamzat Chimaev, is that you don't get to decide which shit we're doing. He does. He has occasionally decided wrong, but for the most part, he gets to decide. And Sean Strickland's stuff works when the other person sort of consents to letting him do it to some degree. He's got to be able to shut down takedowns, and a lot of them. Because I don't see Khamzat Chimaev being the dude who's going to try for one and then give it up if you stop it and then decide I'm just going to stand and bang with this guy.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to be able to shut down that area of his game. And if you did, brother, you'd be the first.
Yeah. Look, I said I didn't believe it. I told you up front that I was going to say some shit that I didn't believe. I just felt like somebody had to say something. Someone had to stand up and say something in defense of Sean Strickland's chances in this fight. But every single professional MMA fighter that you see in the media talking about how they have trained with Khamzat Chimaev basically says the same shit. And that is like, you cannot stop this man from taking you down. And that's real high level wrestlers saying that shit. Like, you know, they're not asking jerks off the street what it's like to wrestle with Khamzat Chimaev. They're asking guys who know the craft, who know what they're doing, and every single one of them is like, this guy's a beast. So
yeah, and that's the thing, is it's like you got to be able to do one of two things. Either you got to stop the takedowns, or you got to get up when he's taking you down. And we haven't seen people have a whole lot of success doing either one of those. Honestly, maybe one of the best chances that Sean Strickland has in this fight is he has talked so much shit, he might get Khamzat so motivated to hurt him that instead of playing it safe, keeping you down the way he was doing, when he won the title over DDP, he will take more chances, open up more just to try to brutalize you. And that will give you opportunities to get back up or give you opportunities for some kind of counterattack. Maybe, and I don't want to give Sean Strickland credit for that being a stratagem. I don't think that he's thought it through on that level. I think he's just being Sean Strickland and trying to do the things that have got him attention. But maybe that's the best hope you got. Of course, we saw how that went for Conor McGregor when he did it to Habib. And the next thing you know, you're trying to tell the guy to chill dog during the middle of the fight. Like, as though it was just business. I was just talking it up for business. And he's like, yeah, get back here the next round. I'm going to take you down and elbow you in the face for business. So that doesn't necessarily always work, just because, like, sometimes you don't make the guy so mad that he makes a mistake. You make the guy so mad that he just beats the shit out of you. Yeah. That could very well happen here.
Which could, frankly, with Khamzat Chimaev, cut either way, because we have some evidence to suggest he's a bit of a hothead. There was that one time he did, in fact, fly to Ireland when Conor McGregor made him mad, apparently with the plan of just maybe walking around Ireland until he found Conor McGregor and then fighting him. But he also seems like a guy who doesn't play.
Yep.
Right? Some guys play too much, and you could argue maybe one of those guys is Sean Strickland, and he's coming up against a guy who does not play. So that does not maybe bode well for him. We'll have to see. Remember, you're listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Tuesday afternoon for free in your timelines and your podcast libraries. And friends, not to belabor the topic of Pledge Month too much, though it is very important, and we depend on your support to keep the show running, so please help us out if you can. For next week, we are going to need a little bit of help. I think our idea for the next mini-series episode for patrons over there is going to be what MMA was like when we started this shit. So we'd like to hear from some of you, some listeners, about your own MMA origin stories or your memories of the past 14 years in the sport and what fighting was like over the course of that. We actually already got a very good one from our friend Stacy, who wrote in as a listener mail question this week, but I think I'm going to take that and use it on what MMA was like when we started this shit, because it is a very, very good remembrance about peak MMA and where we might be now as compared to that. So send us your recollections. We'd love to be able to incorporate your thoughts. We like to incorporate listener mail thoughts on the show whenever we can. Send those to us the same way you would send a regular listener mail if you are not a patron. Go to the website Co-Main Event, click the link at the top right-hand corner of the screen that says email the podcast. That'll get you in touch with us. If you are already a patron, you can just send us a Patreon message. Speaking of listener mail, like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
First piece of listener mail this week comes to us from the Greek Bar Asshole. He writes, we've heard from Greek Bar Asshole before. So he writes, sup, duders. In light of Strickland's talking bollocks yet again, it made me think of all the shit talkers and whether they backed it up or not. Chael, Colby, Rousey, lately, Strickland all had some standout moments, but ultimately got fucked up. Is Conor the most accomplished shit talker? Because I can't think of anyone better, and even he has gone out with a fart. But at least he backed it up before he started sleeping on silk sheets. P.S. I'm no fan of the piece of shit, just an observation from your guy across the pond, the Greek Bar Asshole.
Okay, are we saying that in order to be thought of as a standout shit talker, you have to be able to talk all that shit and never get fucked up? Because
that's what I was wondering too, because that sets a high bar, right?
Yeah.
Because I have always argued that Chael Sonnen is still the undefeated king of shit talk, because Conor McGregor, his highs were very high when it came to talking shit. His lows were also very, very low. And Chael also has had some very notable lows over the years of one form or another in terms of shit that he either said or didn't say. But Chael Sonnen, if you have ever actually spoken to the man, his level of shit talk is consistently higher than I think Conor McGregor's ever was. And that is because in many ways, Chael is just being himself.
Yeah.
That is how he is all the time. So if we're talking about who was the most accomplished shit talker in the sport, I believe it's still Chael Sonnen. If we're talking about who talked that shit and ended up having better careers, it would obviously be Conor or Ronda.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes Chael one of the most effective shit talkers is that even when he lost, he could turn around and not make it seem like, oh wow, I was a huge fucking idiot.
Mhm.
You know, Chael had the ability to go out there and when he lost, show up at the press conference afterwards and talk to you about it. And you're like, suddenly it almost seems like a different guy.
Yeah.
He can honestly assess his own failures, and he will go out there and be harder on himself after a loss than anybody else is going to be. And there was something weirdly endearing about that, because I remember being there for both Anderson Silva fights, and both times he showed up afterwards and he was just like, well, I failed myself. I screwed up. He's also the same guy who was saying that when he retired, where he was just like, I don't think I will call it retiring because you can only retire if you were the champion at some point. Everybody else just quits, and I just quit. And so, like, he was willing to do that. And therefore, he also sort of had like this weird ability to where anybody who even engaged in the shit talk back with him had already lost that part of the battle, because you weren't going to do that part better than him. And even when you had something over him, he could spin it in a way where it still ends up sort of being about him and not that you just shut him up, which is what happened to somebody like Colby Covington, right? Talked all that shit and then went sprinting out of the arena when Kamaru Usman beat him and fractured his jaw and shit. And everybody went, you have been literally and figuratively shut up here tonight. And that's the thing you kind of can't allow if your whole thing is you're the shit talker. Same thing with Ronda Rousey. You went out there, you got kicked in the head, you walked through the airport with the pillow over your face because you can't stand to even be seen, much less say some shit about it. Didn't show up to any of the press conferences after she got beat up, didn't want to face anybody. And so it was just like you were completely silenced by the ass kicking you received. And Chael has never really been that guy. Like Chael's always found a way to twist it and turn it in a little bit of like verbal jujitsu. Sean Strickland also has some of that qualities, but Sean Strickland's thing is based so much on like shock value rather than cleverness.
Yeah.
Like there's no cleverness at all to Sean Strickland's game. It's just like, what if the kid from 7th grade science class had just a stream of consciousness rant where we all heard the disturbing thoughts in his head? And that can be shocking. He comes out here with a real school shooter vibe, but it's not especially clever or interesting. It's just like, wow, what a psycho this guy might be. And he's very much leaning into it and really wants you to keep saying what a psycho he is. It's very much like a middle school thing, because it's like a kid who somehow acts out, acts weird, gets attention for it, even if some of that attention is horrified, but he still finds he likes the attention. And so he's like, what else could I do that would get them to look at me in class, even if I'm, getting sent to the principal's office afterwards?
Also, if our bar is who got fucked up at the end of their career, I think you might have been about to say this a couple minutes ago. That's a high bar, because almost everybody, regardless of whether or not they talk that shit, gets fucked up at the end of their career. That's how careers end for the most part in combat sports, is you start getting fucked up and then eventually you realize you don't want to get fucked up anymore and you stop. Or you retire or you quit, according to Chael Sonnen.
Do you realize that the rewards just aren't there anymore? It's a series of like declining returns. That's the thing, is that anybody who, if we're saying like this person talked that shit, never got fucked up, you can think about a few people in this sport who kind of never got fucked up, a very few, and they weren't the people who talked shit. Like Khabib never got fucked, but Khabib also never really talked a whole bunch of shit. At least that wasn't that guy who would start all the shit talking. And it's just like the way this fight game works. I refer you back to Stanley Ketchell's quote, Chad. It's a cinch that anyone who sticks to the game is going to get trimmed. The thing is to know when to quit. And I noticed that there isn't one in 1,000 who does.
including probably Stanley Ketchel, who
Well, he
would have continued fighting if he had not been shot by the husband of one of his mistresses, if I'm not mistaken.
It's unclear if she was actually a mistress, a lady he tried to put the moves on, or if it was all just a setup to rob him and it went poorly, because he wasn't the kind of guy who's going to stand there with his hands in the air while you rob him. He was the guy who's going to reach for the gun that he carries on him at all times.
Got that thing on him.
Didn't get to it quick enough, though. There's a lesson in that, Sean Strickland.
Easier guys to rob, man. If you're looking around for guys to rob, easier guys to rob than Stanley Ketchel.
Yeah, but he's the rich, famous fighter. You figure that guy's got money. And this is, back in the day where you're like, if Stanley Ketchel has money, he probably has it on him right now.
That is true. That is true. All right. This is Psy. Things are about to get real sad because we got two messages about Tai Tuivasa this week. One came from Jefferson Darcy, who wrote, "If the rule Tai Tuivasa followed brought him to this, of what use was the rule?" And one from Tony Woodcock, who writes, "Does Tai Tuivasa have the streakiest MMA career in history? He started his career winning 9 in a row, then lost 3 in a row, wins 5 in a row, and has now lost 7 in a row. I know this isn't the most highbrow email of the week. I just thought it was unique and interesting. In closing, here is a tweet about Tai Tuivasa from Luke Thomas in 2021. Quote, Tai Tuivasa has admitted he's done a shoey with over 50 people having spat in said shoe. Something's wrong with me, Tuivasa said, but I've accepted it."
Okay. I'm glad that he's accepted it, I guess.
You know what? Tony Woodcock does not need to apologize for that tweet. I feel like that's a decent analysis to point out the insanely streaky nature of Tai Tuivasa's career. And it gives me hope. Gives me hope, man. We're about to turn it around. 7 losses in a row. We're due. 7 wins in a row. That's what's coming up next. Am I right?
No, you're not right. I feel confident saying you're not right. Okay. So here's the when he went on his big UFC winning streak, because he came in off of the Australian scene, won 3 straight. Rashad Coulter, Cyril Asker, decision over Andrei Arlovsky, right? Then he loses 3 straight. Junior Dos Santos, Blagoy Ivanov, Sergey Spivak. That Sergey Spivak one was the one where I saw him get out of the cage and somebody tried to hand him a shoey and he was like, bro, nah. Then his longest winning streak in the UFC, where he won 5 in a row. He beat Stefan Struve, Harry Hunsucker, sounds fucking made up, Greg Hardy, we all remember that feel-good moment, Augusto Sakai, and Derek Lewis. Now, that's a pretty good streak of names. The Derek Lewis one was one of those where we were throwing those bungalows and it seemed like could have been either man. And he knocks him out with that elbow. And then they go, okay, you're a for real heavyweight now. Go fight Cyril Gane in sort of an interim title eliminator fight. And boom. Cyril Gane put it on his ass. Not only did he take a bad knockout in that one, he took a bad beating before he was finally knocked out. You'll remember that because we were sort of looking at it and being like, man, Tai Tuivasa got a big hard ass head. Like, is Cyril Gane going to even be able to finish this guy, or is he just going to keep knocking away at him and the pinata never breaks open? But he did finally knock him out, and then that started this string of bad losses. The thing is, I think when you go through a long losing streak like that, and the UFC is trying to give you more winnable fights in some ways at various points of the streak, and you're still not winning them, you have to have an ability to sort of learn from it and evolve. And that's the thing you've seen absolutely none of from Tai Tuivasa. He's just doing the same shit. He is just the exact same guy as he was, 5-6 years ago. And it's not working, and you're not really seeing that there's a whole lot of growth happening there. So
yeah,
where do you think he's going to turn it around?
What do you think what's the growth? What evolution do you want to see from Tai Tuivasa?
You got to stop people from taking you down and laying on you. You got to make it so that you don't completely run out of gas if you can't knock somebody out in the first round. It also seems like at this point, he's definitely going out there thinking you can't lose another one. And that's not a good place to be. I've talked to many fighters about this. Like, once you start to get in that negative headspace where you're just like, I just don't, you're going up to bat thinking, I don't want to strike out. I hope I don't strike out. And you're not going to be super successful that way. So it's hard for me to see how Tai Tuivasa turns it around, even like, unless the UFC is just like, we found this guy outside 15 minutes ago. He's drunk, but he's fat, so he'll make heavyweight, and we'll put him in there with you, and you can knock him out, okay? Like, that's kind of what it's going to take at this point, I think.
Well, Tai Tuivasa ain't showing up wearing no gi like Royce Gracie at UFC 1. That's all I'm saying. I don't think you're going to see a total reinvention of the gimmick for Tai Tuivasa.
Honestly, that would be a rad gimmick too.
It would be amazing. Yeah, would actually be amazing. I was on the record when they announced the Cyril Gane fight that the UFC hated fun. We had Tai Tuivasa on a nice little roll. He was coming off 3 knockout wins in a row. He just knocked out Derek Lewis, like you said. And you know what? They ruined him. We had a fun thing going, and they ruined him because they hate fun. They could have just given this man a steady diet of hairy hunsuckers the whole time, and we could still be rolling. We could still be having a good time.
Chad, they gave him Louis Sutherland.
Yeah. As I pointed out last week, Louis Sutherland had not lasted 2 minutes of the first round in any of his previous UFC performances. Now he goes out there 30-26 across the board on Tai Tuivasa, which is fucking ignoble, man.
They tried to give him one of the hairy hunsuckers that they had, and it didn't work out.
Let's see here. Oscar Eagle wrote in to say, I just love, actually, we got 2 from Oscar Eagle and 1 from Matt Webb that are describing eerily similar experiences. One from Oscar Eagle that says, I just love waking up on a Saturday morning and starting my day off with a UFC card. The prelim started at 8 a.m. in Iceland. I just finished the gonna nail it here. Perisic? What do you think?
Yeah.
Versus Gaziev fight, and realized that this is the 4th event in a row with a great heavyweight fight. First, we got Hokut versus Blades. Then we got Sarkam versus Bozer. Then we got Span versus Buchecha. And now this one. None of these guys seem likely to win a title, but that doesn't really matter. Yes, the majority of heavyweight fights suck, so we tend to complain and write them off. All we want out of this division is the occasional rock'em sock'em war and knockouts, because at heavyweight ain't nothing else like it, man. If we can get Perisic versus Gaziev for every Tuivasa versus Sutherland fight, I will be a happy camper. Discuss with Z's. And then Matt Webb wrote in to say, happy pledge month to all who celebrate. Thank you, Matt. It's 7 a.m. in the central time zone, the one true time zone. Can't agree with you there, but nonetheless. And I have coffee in one hand and a 6-month-old baby in the other. I look up and Brando Perisic is throwing them thangs with Z's. Discourse. This guy looks like he could be the start of a new crop of heavyweight.
I mean, we're talking about the Balkan Bear right now.
You know what? If Ben Folks loves anything, it's when you put a regional name in your nickname. The Balkan Bear. The Argentine Dagger. This is what you like.
You come out here as a 6'5" heavyweight nicknamed the Balkan Bear, and you're putting it on these fools. You're slinging that leather. I'm going, okay, I'm listening. I'm ready to get on the train, man. Coming off that knockout over the very dangerous Louis Sutherland in his last fight, then rolls up in here, polishes off Shamil Gaziev. I mean, the bar is pretty low at heavyweight. I agree that the sentiment that it's too easy for us to get entirely pessimistic about the current state and near future of heavyweight. Be like, why do they all suck? Maybe what we need to think about heavyweight the way one of my friends said he once thought about using dating apps, which is, it's not the averages, it's the highlights. You know, like you got to think about the bright spots that come in the heavyweight division. We got some. Alex Pereira's up there now. You know, you see Cyril Gane looking good and training. You look like you're actually going to get a pretty good fight. You got some signs of life down here where you got guys like the Balkan Bear. You got Gable Steveson going to come in here soon. Like, there are some highlights at heavyweight. It's just never going to be welterweight, lightweight, featherweight, where you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a technically brilliant fighter who can do absolutely everything of all aspects of mixed martial arts. That's never going to happen. What we can have is an occasional Balkan bear. All right.
I mean, it sounds to me like you guys are saying something suspiciously close to maybe there are two different heavyweight divisions. There is the A-level heavyweight division that is at this point Alex Pereira, Cyril Gahn, Tom Aspinall. You remember him?
Yeah.
Remember Tom Aspinall? He's pretty good. He was pretty good. Waldo Acosta Cortez is in that. Josh Hokett, I guess, is one of those guys now, but you've got this.
Well, okay. Here's what I would say. Maybe there's not two different heavyweight divisions. Maybe there's three.
Okay. Yeah. And what you are proposing here today on this episode of the Co-Main Event podcast is the emergence of a new, perhaps third heavyweight division. This is exciting.
Yeah. You've got the elite heavyweights at the top, your Tommy Aspinalls, now your Alex Pereiras, probably Cyril Gahns, those kind of guys, the guys that seem like at any moment could blink their eyes, end up in a title fight. At the very bottom, you've got where did they even fucking find these guys, heavyweights, where it's just sort of like guys who weren't good enough athletes to do absolutely anything else, rolling off a bar stool, basically coming in here and seeing who wants to lose this fight slightly less than the other guy, and somebody has to win. But then in the middle, you've got the fun heavyweight division. Okay. Where we got guys like Josh Hokett, we got guys like the Balkan Bear, we got some of these guys. We're not sure yet if they are elite guys, but we know they have gotten us to give a shit. They know they've gotten us to be like, oh, this guy's on this card. Okay. They're not the guys where you see there's these two interchangeable heavyweights on the prelims and you go, ugh, am I going to have to sit through this now? Like, they're not those guys, but they're also not the elite guys yet. They're fun. And the jury is still out on them. It's like they're Tai Tuivasa in 2018. Like, there's now a noticeable clump of some of those guys. And so I think that we can say that there's a third heavyweight division you can be in now. And you can graduate more easily from this heavyweight division to the elite one with just a couple key wins. The interchangeable dog shit ass heavyweights, man, it would take a lot for them to get up to the elite level.
So what you're saying on some Dante's Inferno shit is that there is a heavyweight purgatory. You are not quite in heaven. You are not quite in hell. You are in heavyweight purgatory.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see here. Last question this week comes to us from Dan Alexander, writes in to say, I watched Carlos Augusto Montero Prates systematically beat the living shit out of Jack Della Maddalena. At times, it looked like a sickening thing of beauty. Some of those knees up the middle could easily have ironically corrected Jack's nose.
Oh, come on.
That's mean. Is this a victory elevated when we take into account just how tough a Brisbane mother Jack Della is? Or will we find out Jack was compromised going in and Ian Gary is some kind of tactical genius? Please discourse. After lots of soul-searching therapy and me time, I now love you both equally. We will talk about that right after this. Man, Carlos Prates did put a whooping on Jack Della Maddalena, a bad one that, as Dan Alexander said, at times was stylistically beautiful, but also hard to watch after a while. Particularly, I would say, after he was starting to get bloodied up, messed up, Jack Della Maddalena went back to his corner and went, ah!
Yep.
And his corner said, don't do that. Don't say ah.
He said, no ah.
Yeah, so
it got
ugly out there, man. It got ugly out there.
He did one of those things that I've always taken as, it's not a great sign, but it is an indicator of what the corner feels like they're there to do in this unique arrangement in sports, which is to then kind of try to find the bright side and be like, hey, he's getting tired. The part you're not saying is that he's getting tired from whipping your ass. He's throwing so much stuff. It's almost all landing. he's doing a whole lot of work. Like all this ass kicking you feel like you've taken, that's taken a toll on him, man. He's tired himself out beating the shit out of you. So now is your time. And it's like, I understand. We're trying to find whatever we can. We're trying to find something we could point to, but that's a kind of rough. And didn't seem like Jack Della was convinced. It did. I do tend to think that it is a sign of Jack Della Maddalena's toughness that he was able to stand in there for so much of it. Because some of those shots, some of those knees, some of those elbows he's hitting him with, a lot of good fighters in the division are on their way to being knocked out when they eat one or two of those. And he took a whole bunch of them, kept coming forward. The thing that surprised me a little bit about his approach in this was it seemed early on they established a pattern where he would come forward, trying to put Carlos Prates on the back foot, would sometimes succeed, but then couldn't then like get to the next level where you launch an effective offense. And Prates was just stinging him.
Yeah.
And when he would get stung, JDM would sort of retreat into this defensive shell where he was just like, I'm just covering up, just elbows high, covering up my head. And then Carlos Prates would be like, okay, so I'll just kick you in the leg then. Because you can't really see a whole lot of what's coming at you when you're in that defensive shell. And I'm not scared of anything coming back at me when you fall back into that shell. I know it's an entirely defensive position and I can do what I want, and I'm not concerned about counters. And that seemed to be a thing that you could tell right away that's not going to work well against Carlos Prates. He is throwing out there. He's throwing offense. He's not even bothering to put his hands up by his face most of the time. So he's not entering a defensive shell. He's just looking to hurt you. And you're giving him too many opportunities where you're going like, oh, nope, defense only here, no offense. And he's teeing off.
Yeah.
That to me was, you could see that taking shape in round one. And it really only got worse from there.
Especially with the sheer diversity of strikes that Carlos Prates is able to throw at you. Seemingly, indefatigably, seemingly without care for human life. Some of those, the sort of standing 12-6 elbow that guys are starting to throw now, that looks like you basically have a hatchet in your hand and you're trying to drive it into someone's skull. Those are nasty. Mm-hmm. Like that is a developing weapon in this sport, and he threw some nasty elbows into Jack Della Maddalena's dome in this fight. And I agree, this was one of those ones where you see the beating that gets put on one guy, and you really don't know how he is able to withstand it as long as he could, which obviously is a testament to Jack Della Maddalena. The leg kicks, as you said, maybe the nastiest part of this fight, which is saying something considering all of the other forms of violence that Carlos Prates was subjecting Jack Della Maddalena to. Joe Rogan must have been loving it. Joe Rogan, this is like Joe Rogan's version of those weekends P. Diddy would have.
Wow.
Watching a fight with these leg kicks, that's like he's got a bottle of Astroglide and a full box of tissues.
I wish you hadn't done that.
I don't know. Now Carlos Prates is the coming man in the division.
He is the coming man in the division. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I know that a lot of the talk has been like, is that a good enough performance to leapfrog Ian Gary? You can see how it might be, because you look at Ian Gary and you go like, all right, like he seems like he has done a good job of self-promotion. He talks himself up well every single time before he fights. Sometimes when he gets in there, the fights themselves are overly tactical in a way that is not exactly fan pleasing. And Carlos Prates is very much the opposite. And, fun guy to watch, fun style. I think either one of them has some stylistic challenges against Islam Makhachev. And Ian Gary has the head-to-head win over Carlos Prates, which in a sport where the wins and losses are all that matter and the rankings matter, that would be it. That would be the end of the conversation. However, this is not that kind of sport, as we've learned over and over again. Also, I'm going to say this, Chad. That fight with Ian Machado Gary, Carlos Prates would have won that if he hadn't lost.
Well, and there were some extenuating circumstances, weren't there? Like, if I remember correctly,
smoking the Marlboros.
Well, and also, wasn't he getting ready for Jeff Neal? Or am I misremembering? I thought maybe he was getting ready for Jeff Neal, and then they couldn't have that fight, so he got Ian Gary instead. But I'd have to check the record, bud, on that one. But you're right. It is it's a what have you done for me lately kind of sport, and it's a who's going to be fun kind of sport at this point. I would be mad if I was Ian Gary, though, and I got passed up. I would be mad. I would be mad about that.
Yeah, especially because I'm sure that Ian Gary feels like, hey, I've been the guy at times when you need somebody to step up and take a fight, I'll do it. And I'm also the guy who can talk up a fight, any fight you put me into. I can talk and make myself a focal point. And so don't you want guys like that? Isn't that something that you've needed? I've done that for you. And I'm sitting here in the number one ranked spot. But also I don't foresee a huge outcry of fan outrage if Ian Gary got skipped over.
The bigger picture is that welterweight is kind of fun as hell right now, though.
Yep.
Right? With Gary, with Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, Jack Della Maddalena still hanging around. And frankly, Jack Della Maddalena, shockingly young, right? 29 years old. This dude's going to turn 30 in September. And like we said on the show before this fight, like his only real significant losses, his only losses of his only relevant losses, let's say that, are Islam Makhachev and now Carlos Prates. It is 2 in a row, but like Jack Della Maddalena obviously still has the potential to be contributing part of this division and be a real problem for people. So you got those 4 guys. You still got Bilal hanging around, Sean Brady, Mike Malott recently got a win, and I feel like you have the specter of Michael Venom Page just kind of floating around out there, not necessarily in a title contention situation, but also either being real fun or real boring. But he's there. He's a part of the division. I feel like welterweight might be the funnest division right now, but it also seems like there is a very high probability that this division is Islam Makhachev and everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do probably need to see him against some other type of fighters in that division, see if there's anybody who can maybe make the difference in weight class matter since he's gone up to welterweight. But right now, it does seem that way.
Does it matter to you in terms of who wins, Josh Van and Tatsuro Taira this weekend? Who wins between those guys? Is anybody going to be able to make any claims after they win this fight?
I mean, people could always make some claims.
Well, people are going to make claims. We know that. The problem is, do you have to beat the man before you be the man?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, for Joshua Van, obviously, it would be better to win this fight than to lose it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you win this one and people step back and be like, all right, yeah, no more doubts or questions here. I think you can take a step towards that. If you go out there, you look great, you polish off Tatsuro Taira, you make it look real easy. People go like, hey, yeah, they'll remember, hey, Joshua Van wound up in that title fight in the first place for a reason. He put himself in that position. He didn't win a lottery or something. He didn't get lucky at the casino. He deserved to be there, even if the circumstances got weird. But I do think that it's going to take Joshua Van actually going out there and beating Pantoja, of something where people go, okay, that was a legit outcome, before they're really ready to call him the best flyweight on the planet.
I guess in other potentially interesting UFC 328 news, Alexander Volkov and Waldo Cortez Acosta also doing the damn thing. Obviously, Waldo Cortez Acosta, 3 wins in a row now. Is he part of is he A-list? Is he still in the purgatory? Is he still in Dante's Inferno?
He's not A-list. Let's be honest. He's not A-list.
He's looked good, though. He's looked good.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked pretty good. People have come around on him. He had a couple like interesting moments, like that Anti-Delia fight was just weird enough that people took notice. You come out here and people are calling you Salsa Boy. That's a good way to be in the fun part of the heavyweight division. The one with Derek Lewis was like, it seemed like he had adopted a smart game plan and Derek Lewis sort of maybe quit. But 3-fight winning streak at heavyweight, finishing all those fights, that's a good sign. It's a good start. I do think, though, that if you want to get from you're a fun guy who we know and remember to the elite level, you got to do a little bit more. The question is, like, this is the kind of fight, right? Like a undercard on a numbered event type of fight against Alexander Volkov, the guy who's been given a lot of opportunities to be in that elite heavyweight division and just hasn't really got there. He's coming off that nobody wants to win this fight effort against Jelton Almeida. And he's kind of one of those guys who you can beat to get into that elite part of the heavyweight division.
You know what? I feel like we all learned a lot here today. I feel like we're all better people for having listened to this episode of the Co-Main Event podcast.
I don't know if I go that far.
That's going to do it this week. UFC 328 this weekend, Prudential Center, Newark, New Jersey. Watch your language while you're out there. Should be a fun card. Khamzat Chimaev, Sean Strickland, Joshua Van Tatsuro Taira. We'll talk to you next week. Join the Patreon, for God's sake. This is a great time to do it. Patreon.com/co-main event. If you do that, shit, man, we'll talk to you tomorrow for the live chat. If you don't, you have to wait till next week. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support. As for right now, we are done. We are through. We are out.
I really think that you and your wife got to be the only people in the history of the world to come back from Newark, New Jersey, being like, you got to watch your language out there.
Hey, man, that's how we
roll. They don't
roll.
like the swears out there.
That's how we roll. Too hard for New Jersey. That's how we are. The problem is when you fly out of Newark from NYC, it's a planes, trains, and automobiles type situation. Like you got to take that fucking bus and shit. And then you get there and they're like, sorry, you got to go back home. You might drop an F-bomb. I mean, it might just happen. It was warranted.
Yeah, it just seems like I would say that is one of the airports in America where I would feel most comfortable dropping an F-bomb at any time. And
agreed.
I would think the worst thing that's happened is they are going to drop several more back at you.
Agreed. Didn't happen, though. Didn't go down like that.